Hey everyone, welcome back to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. My name is Scott and I'm joined by Lucas, and we are going to be diving into the new year. We're going to be talking all about WWE in the year 2025. Of course, there's so much to discuss, but we want to know your thoughts and opinions on what this big year for WWE could be like. Talking of big years, we've had a huge year for the company already. So, of course, 2024 and some of its highlights will get a mention throughout this stream as well. But again, we want to know what you think is going to happen in 2025. We're talking Royal Rumble winners. We're talking Money in the Bank winners. We're talking cash-ins. We're going to talk about potential first-time champions, returns, debuts, all that good stuff. And, of course, a little bit of WrestleMania predictions in there early as well. So we'll be back right after this.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, and someone that never misses any of the action, guys. I've seen them in the comments already. Sludge Sports join us once again. 2025 will be a big year. I think you are right, mate. As I say, there's a lot to talk about within this stream itself. We've had a great year on this channel, great year watching and reporting on WWE, of course, but it's always great to have you guys join us in the chat. And again, we'd love to know your thoughts as well. Now, not only are you going to get the thoughts of myself and Lucas, you're also going to get the thoughts of our resident luchador. Back at it once again. Good. Rob is here. Mate, it's a privilege to see you back on this channel. How you been?
Yeah, I'm good. Like, obviously, I know a lot of people obviously don't know. Obviously, you guys know. Obviously, I've been dealing with stuff personally and getting stuff together, new job and all that kind of stuff. So it's just been hard, man. And apart for a while, I told Scott, obviously, I told you, it got to a point I didn't watch any wrestling. I fell out of love with circumstances, but I'm here.
100%, mate. No, either way, so good to have you back. And love from us here on the channel, and hope things are picking up essentially for you. It's that time of year, isn't it, where we've got to say, really put the message out there. If anyone's struggling, reach out to loved ones. And, it's important to make sure we're here for each other and to check on your loved ones as well. Now, let's stick to the fun stuff as far as wrestling goes. As you say, it has been a big year. It's a shame you haven't been able to enjoy it kind of in the moment at times. But as you say, it's been a lot to catch up on, and a lot will kind of dive into throughout this stream. But let's start off with that, guys. Before we head into 2025, what are your favorite memories of 2024? I think off the bat, for me, something that just keeps kind of popping into my head, and I think I've been saying it quite often throughout the year, really, is Damian Priest's cash-in. Like, I just thought it was such a well-executed moment. I watched it again last night because I saw it was the thumbnail image of WWE's stream that they're playing at the moment, which is 2024 moments. And I went on it. It weren't the moment, so I rewound until I found that moment because it's been streaming for a while. And, just watching back that last part where Drew wins the title, Punk, he gets in the face of Punk, and it's just so perfectly executed. Even though it was obvious, it weren't obvious, and I think it was just fantastic. And it's everything you want about a Money in the Bank cash-in, right? The music hits and everybody gets excited, and it led into an incredible feud between Drew, well, continued really for Drew and CM Punk as well. So right off the bat, for me, I got to say, one of my highlights would be the Drew McIntyre kind of situation at WrestleMania with Damian Priest cashing in, and then that storyline of Drew and CM Punk. I think if I had to pick a storyline of the year, Bloodline's always going to come close, right? But I think the Drew CM Punk storyline really did deliver. What about you, Lucas? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's weird to think there has been obviously two cash-ins this year for the men. But obviously Damian Priest waited, from last year into this year, and then Drew McIntyre waited his on the same night. But no, I think that's probably a good shout. That whole WrestleMania weekend, I must admit, for me, I think the last few years WrestleMania, the weekends have just been just really, really good. I feel just really, obviously there's been some stuff you don't agree with, whatever, but overall, I think WWE provided, like, you know, they really, you know, provided the 2 nights of entertainment, you know, for us as fans. And it, you know, this year in particular was very good. Was very good. I think for me, the one that will kind of stick out though is Cody finishing his story.
Oh,
you know, that in terms of the year and summing up obviously everything that's kind of happened, I think that was like a massive moment. In terms of obviously moments that I've enjoyed, like obviously I was blessed enough to go to Bash in Berlin this year, and that was such a good weekend. It was such a good weekend, you know, going there for the SmackDown on the Friday and the next day, you know, for the pay-per-view itself, which I thought was really good. And it's just Germany, Berlin as a city is a lovely city. It's so relaxed, like it's, you know, it's very just, yeah, it's just a really nice vibe to be around, like so many wrestling fans, and like walking out on the venue and just you know, getting given prime as you left the venue. Like, oh, this is cool. I was thirsty anyway, so you know. And Scott, a city that probably is one of that you'd like, people just seem to drink everywhere. So
I'd love to. I could do a good build-up show from Berlin then, yeah.
But no, for me, but as a fan, like it was really good. It was really good. But I think ultimately that moment, you know, Cody finishing his story will be kind of the top one for me.
100%. And for those that haven't already, you can head back and watch Lucas's instant reaction to some of the things out there in Berlin on this very channel as well. And we're hoping to get some more roaming Lucas, the reporter, in 2025. So we'll get to 2025 in a moment, but do want to hand over to you, Rob, as well. Again, I know a lot of it, but you've been kind of playing catch up as far as 2024 goes. So some of these moments may have come across a little bit different, I guess, with that kind of perspective in mind. But yeah, with that, what have been your moments and highlights of 2024?
Do you know, I feel like I've been like, you know, the Internet Explorer meme, and like everything else is happening and the Explorer is just catching up. I feel like that for this year of wrestling. Like, I really like the Cody thing. I think at some point it was inevitable that he was going to finish the story. I think it made sense. The second year of Mania, it was a beautiful moment. Controversial on the Undertaker thing. I liked it, didn't like it. You know, it was there. It would have been great if it was Austin, but you know, so to be. For me though, probably I know it's again one-sided. Jey Uso, obviously winning the title. Yeah. But do you know, obviously I really like that moment, but for me, that wasn't the moment for Jey that really stood out. I was like, this guy is actually a mega star if you push in the right way. It was he had a match with him against Priest when they were in France.
When they did, and the fans really kind of took his entrance.
Just absolutely incredible. Like just you can literally see how simple marketing can make you a star. You know, and it felt like it was a long story of overnight success. Yeah. If you know what I mean, like him breaking out and all that kind of thing. Other than that, I mean, I don't know if you want to kind of dabble into other things like NXT, obviously AEW, as I said in the chat. There's a few things there that have been great. But WWE wise, probably Jey Uso, Braun Breaker being, in my opinion, a breakout star of this year. He has been absolutely incredible. It is a shame about the Dragunov being injured. Obviously, that was a shank, and I think him and those two together would have been just insane, you know, with the chemistry they've got in the ring. So obviously, I hope they run that back. I'm trying to think things that have really stood out. Bronson Reed, I've really grown to love Bronson Reed. Yeah, that guy is an absolute monster, and I think again, marketing the right way, doing things the right way. Him coming back for a couple of years ago with The Miz, and then seeing how he's progressed. Man, just everything about it. The new bloodline, I'd probably been one of my favorite things to watch. But I think capping it all off, my favorite thing, Chelsea Green, finally getting a title. Man, I just love when you get like that Cinderella story of someone that they had the moment, and then I don't know if you've seen like some of the edits, but she didn't make the cut. Then she was let go, and then she would, you know, it was like she had a long road. And then her finally getting that moment, I was like, you know what, that's perfect. I think if anyone was going to have it, it wasn't going to be Mitch, and it should have been Chelsea Green. So, but yeah, as a recap, there'd have been a few of my favourite things.
Yeah, 100%. Just touching on that Chelsea Green thing, of course, that is one of the most kind of recent big stories to come out this year. Myself and Lucas on the build-up were saying the other day, exactly like you said there, Rob. You know, you wouldn't be offended if either one won that match essentially, and again, I came out of it happy. Good opportunity, of course, to plug our Saturday night's main event, Instant Reaction, as well. So if you haven't seen that already, you'll see my instant thoughts on that. I would say PLE. I'm still in that awkward phase of not calling it a PLE because it felt kind of like one, didn't it? But also not. We're going to be diving into the January edition, of course, Raw on Netflix. Just some of the examples of things coming your way in January, of course. It's going to be a big year, of course, for WWE, as we mentioned, and therefore, hopefully, a big year for us on this channel. I want to say personally as well, thank you so much for those that have tuned in throughout the year, young and old, as far as, newcomers and oldcomers, I should say, to this channel. And if you're here for the first time for this stream, then thank you so much there as well. Again, we're going to be hitting you hard with more content throughout 2025. Sludge Sports says Cody finishing the story was 100% the best moment, but Sammy and Gunther was a close second. Now, I really enjoyed Sammy and Gunther, but I had some problems with it at the time as far as I felt like, it should have been for the world title. But hey, it was a great moment. And it's funny, isn't it? I mean, you might expect it, right? Some of the biggest moments happened on the biggest show of the years. Lucas said earlier on, WrestleMania has really started to become this kind of, can do no wrong almost. They're hitting it out of the park when they have these weekends lately, and I think the 2-day kind of extravaganza has really started to come into its own at the moment. It's really, I think
it's helping split up those attractions. I think obviously, especially now, obviously you mentioned Chelsea Green, fantastic for her, but now obviously we got mid-card belts for both the men and the women, as well as the tag belts, and what attraction matches. I think the one night thing, unless they're going to start giving people like 5-minute matches, 2-minute matches, it's not going to be doable.
No.
Put it all on one night, without it going to the lengths it got to pre-pandemic. Let's not forget those 5, 6, 7 hour, all-in events they were doing, for
it was hard, man.
Where there'd be like 14, 15 matches and be burned out. On that about the Cody and the story though, like something we forget the story of how Cody even got there, like that insanity that ensued, like from obviously we don't even need to discuss, even without even leaving aside, the controversies around the company ownership obviously this year, but that entire week from the Rumble through to the match actually happening, because there was even some that thought the match might even happen. Well, because you didn't know, because obviously they had the bloodline tagged on the mat on night 1, and then there was that impacted the main event of night 2, and there was still uncertainty, from a lot of people, like, is Cody actually going to do it? But even before that, it was The Rock who came back and he inserted himself into the match. We forget all that, and then how it obviously led from there, and obviously Punk getting injured as well, which affected the other brands. Championship match. It was a real bonkers kind of road we got to these things, and we are seeing this more and more. Like, I think this year has fully been the Triple H era of WWE. Obviously we've had years where it's mainly been him, but this year definitely, and we've seen a lot of touches added to the shows and a lot of touches maybe removed from some of the shows, and continuing to change and evolve from these shows as we head into 2025. But in terms of Sammy and Gunther, my problem with that is that I still feel it was Chad Gable's moment that Sammy got, and I think that I can see why Sami Zayn and now Kevin Owens are going to keep getting these kind of moments, because we spoke, Scott and I spoke previously about Kevin Owens, 1 foot out the door very much a few years back, 1 foot very much out the door, and the game changing that could have been if Kevin, and you have to imagine Sammy would go with him, if they went to AEW in 2019 or in 2021, when both were rumoured to be going there, like the game changing that would have had to AEW's roster and how they would have done business versus, again, what it would have forced WWE at the time to do, how they would do business. But they stuck around, didn't they? Both stuck around, and it seems like they're lifers now. I can't imagine WWE without them, and vice versa. It seems that whatever itch has happened, because since then we've seen only really good big moments from both of them, haven't we? Kevin stayed in the title picture without kind of, well, as they keep saying, reminding us he's not won a championship in 7 or 8 years now.
Mm.
Sami Zayn as well has had moment after moment after moment, since signing those contracts. So it is somewhat showing that, if you do sign with VE now, they are going to treat you decent.
I mean, it's an interesting point because, as you're saying, like they've both had moment after moment and a big year. And then some of the names thrown out there earlier on, as you say, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, but also, Sludge Brent mentions it here. Rob mentioned him earlier on. Bronson Reed potentially getting a mid-card title next year or even a world title. And again, we'll get to our predictions in just a moment. But recapping on his 2024, such a big year for him. Bronson Reed, but also Bron Breakker as well. A lot of the NXT breakouts we've seen as well. Then you talk about Cody. You talk about, Seth and Drew and Punk have all had pretty decent years. And then, the Bloodline situation. Then you've got the LA Knight kind of rise. Then you've got, a lot of stars coming back and doing things that you might not expect to, like Andrade, who's had a pretty decent run as well. Like, you go through the roster and you're like, man, they've had a good year. Well, they've had a good year. And it just shows how on fire the product is at the moment. I think it's been a fantastic year for so many of the stars, where they're not getting lost in the shuffle like they used to. We mentioned earlier on Jey Uso and the year he's had. DIY have had a good showing recently. Karrion Kross seems to finally kind of been given something that he can sink his teeth into. Yeah. The New Day scenario, what's going on at the moment. So although there are, it's a stacked roster, we are getting a lot of these names getting quite significant moments. Randy Orton came back and had a great year. R-Truth is as funny as ever. There's a lot going on in WWE where you look at these stars and you go, man, they've managed to squeeze a lot of these people into prominent positions. Nakamura has won a title, so there is Judgment Day. I mean, there's so much to kind of go into 2024, but let's dive into 2025 now. And again, I'm sure a lot of these names are going to be coming up again. And what we're going to do is we're going to break it down and talk about our kind of specific opinions and kind of thoughts going ahead about specific WWE moments. So we're talking Royal Rumble winners, we're talking WrestleMania main eventers, Money in the Bank scenarios and stuff like that. But as I say, we're also going to just kind of bring out any other kind of random things. So maybe breakout stars and kind of random predictions in that sense as well. So let's start actually with the earlier part of the year, because again, don't get me wrong, some of these predictions are going to seem completely wild, maybe even in 2 weeks time. So don't hold us to these guys, but at the moment it's going to be hard to predict some of this stuff. So we'll start with the earlier stuff at the moment, and again, we're going to be diving into Royal Rumble content come January anyway. But if you really had to say a name now, who are we going to go with when it comes to Royal Rumble winners? I'm going to start with you, Rob.
Man, see, I would just do a male or female or both.
We'll do both.
All right. See, I want it to be someone that comes so left field that it's like a huge shock, and then there's and I think in order to do that, I actually think it needs to be someone from NXT. I know it's something I don't see them doing.
That's very left field.
But honestly, I think if you're going to have someone come up and you're going to have like them just dismantle everyone, arguably, if it's not going to be Bronson Reed, in my opinion, if it isn't going to be Bronson Reed, it needs to be someone else. It has to be him, right? But obviously, because of the injury, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But minus the injury, I think Bronson would have been should have been everyone's number one pick with the way he's been booked. But I would say I want to take like a bit of a. I'd like to see it happen. I don't know how much you guys dabble with NXT, but Obafemi is incredible as just talent, and I can see him really. If Triple H has his way with the way he kind of looked at NXT previously, and Shawn Michaels has that kind of that look as well, they book him like an absolute star, and that's just NXT. So imagine the way they're going to portray him in the Rumble.
The thing is, I guess with Bronson Reed injured, you could argue the main roster doesn't need another big guy because you've got Braun Strowman, and obviously they've had their feud already, Bronson, sorry. But you could argue, there is maybe room for Obafemi to be called up. But as you know, I don't even know, but Obafemi is scheduled to fight Trick Williams for the NXT Championship at NXT New Year's Eve, which is in a couple of weeks. So, I mean, would you see him if he was to win that, which is at the moment he's the favourite to win that. If he was to win the NXT belt, would you still say he would win the Rumble?
I'd like to see it happen because I think we need to see things now that have happened. That need to see things now that haven't happened that are going to be more of a big shock factor. In my opinion, again, as much as I like the guy, Roman doesn't need to win it. We had the same conversation a couple of years back when Edge won it, and everyone was like, "Well, why Edge?" Like, do you know what I mean? There has to be a time when there's a new guy, and in this current moment, if it isn't going to be someone like Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, or someone like, but I want it to be someone that isn't chasing, that comes so left field. You think, okay, well now we have someone else in the ring. Like now he's a threat.
I think the issue is though, and we're going to get to this as well. It impacts the WrestleMania main event, and it's already a stacked field of how do they even squeeze in the kind of what feel like a million different potential main events at the moment with a lot of big stars. So I don't think this is the year, or next year is the year that they do a kind of someone breaking into that level. I think you're right, man. Like it would be a massive shock, but I think at the moment just putting them in the Rumble will be big enough, you know, like and putting them on the main roster if they need to do that, as Luke says, to fill that gap. So
before
go on.
I was say before you do that, my only other criticism, and again this comes down to I guess Vince booking and the things that he wanted. But even for like if you looked at, let's say Bronson Reed wasn't injured. If he wasn't going to win the Rumble, you could have been like, he's going to break the record, which is great. But the record now is like 15 eliminations. So that means Bronson Reed's got to throw at least half of the Rumble out to then look like do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it really overclouds the how to make a big impact unless you're doing something, you know, insane like the Ricochet Logan Paul moment. It's like it was one spot and everyone spoke about it. Great. But they didn't do anything else that really shocked the world in that moment, like after that. So I just think if you're going to have someone, it needs to be someone that's either you're going to have a shock factor coming out of left field, or it's going to be someone that's going to do something insane. So I'm hoping if someone from NXT gets that big call up, because I mean the last person in my opinion would have been Keith Lee, and obviously that
was a long time ago there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, this is what you want to see. What do you think we're going to see, Rob? Who is likely to win the Royal Rumble?
Honestly, The Rock. I think that's what's going to happen. It's The Rock, Roman. It's going to be someone around the bloodline, isn't it? Rock, Roman, potentially maybe Punk, as maybe he calls the favour in that he goes in number 30 from Heyman. You know, it's going to be something like that. And to be honest, I think it's going to be something that I don't enjoy, because and I know that sounds really bad, but The Rock doesn't need to be in the main event for him to be of importance. The problem is he's such a star. If he's not in the main event, he's irrelevant to the rest of the show. And I think that's honest. You know, with Roman, if you're not going last, go first so everyone remembers you. But I don't think you can have The Rock come out in the first match and kind of steal the show. No one cares. Everyone wants The Rock at the end. When the crowd's dead, they're tired, they erupt and blow the roof off the place. So unfortunately, I think it's going to be The Rock. But I just don't think he needs to do it. I really don't.
I agree with you. I can see it being The Rock, and it definitely doesn't need to be. Of course, we've got Raw, Netflix coming up. We could see The Rock return before that, or he could be returning at the Rumble for all we know. Quickly get to some of these comments here as well. Sludge also thinks Royal Rumble is probably going to be The Rock, and gets to some more comments here as well. If I'm thinking like Rob, I would say Carmelo Hayes, a good pick there. So it says Elias would be better than The Rock. And
you see what he's doing now?
Is he like Bible related stuff?
Yeah. So he's on TikTok and he reads like Bible things.
Okay,
Like,
I saw someone comment the other day saying it shouldn't be that surprising with a guy whose ring names were Elias and Elijah. So it kind of makes sense when you from there. But yeah, fair play to him. Sludge also says female. I hope it'd be Zelina and make her the next big star. We'll get to the female Royal Rumble in just a moment. And Aaron says Jaden McDonough will be impersonating wrestlers every week. Well, like Big Show did and Charlie Haas did back in the day. Is that what we're talking about?
God. More later. What was it?
Curtis
Curtis Axel.
Axel, yeah, okay, that's a big shout for 2025. We'll see if it happens for JD, but appreciate your comment, buddy. Right, so Rob would like to see Obafemi, but that's his heart, but his mind is saying he thinks it will be The Rock. Lucas, mate, where do you think WWE are taking us as far as their booking goes for men's Royal Rumble winner?
Yeah, I think as much as I'd like, well, I think we'd all like to see someone fresh win. I think we're going to see repeat winners in both matches. I think we're going to see the men's Royal Rumble winner be John Cena.
Wow.
To see the women's Royal Rumble winner be Rhea Ripley or Charlotte Flair, one of the two.
Okay.
Maybe Becky Lynch, but I think Becky Lynch is going to return, but I don't know if she return as part of the match or whether she return. Well, there's lots of places you could return, but either the Raw on Netflix, the Rumble, or the Raw after the Rumble to set up a WrestleMania feud. I don't think Becky Lynch winning needs to happen per se, but I think they're going to hit hard with this. It's the first one on Netflix. They need to show that. Because I think it's everyone, we have to look back at their history of television and contracts and stuff. They've had a history where they've overloaded the first bit of the contract to obviously get to show that, we're worth the price we're paying, and then it slips. Remember Superstars, the show Superstars, not 2008?
Yep.
First episode, Undertaker, John Cena. A year later, it's like Curtis Axel and like JTG, best of 17 series. Like they like sweeping the rug out. And I think this Netflix people, Jen, obviously we will talk about this obviously in a couple weeks' time when we're talking about Netflix. This is like game changing. This is international. Like we're not just talking. Usually before they've been talking about the little US networks and getting one network and talking about 2 million viewers to SmackDown, blah blah.
Yeah.
This is a global thing now with Netflix. It's huge, and I just think they're not going to start the year off with people who just aren't known to the majority of the international audience. Keyword being there being international, and I think they're going to go for those big names. And I think with it being John Cena's last year in the business, I just think they're going to accelerate the moments they want to get. They want to, in my opinion, they're going to want Cena to win the Rumble, so he ties Stone Cold's 3-time Rumble winner. They're going to want him to win another world championship, so he breaks Ric Flair's record. And they want him to have one more match with Randy Orton. And I think we're going to see all those things from the first 6 months of the year, because they're not going to risk him getting injured, or if Suicide Squad or Fast and the Furious call and they say, look, John, we've got a movie for you, and if he wants to duck out early or whatever, or he gets unavailable in that middle section of the year. So I think they're just going to, you know what, he's only going to have his last year once. Like, this is it. And I truly believe he's going to be like a Batista, where that is it. He will not wrestle a single match for love nor money. No Rumble appearance, no Rumble returns. I genuinely just think that's going to be it for him. In terms of the women, I think they've already kind of showed a pattern where they're happy to kind of have only the main women win it. And I think now that they've narrowed down their main women to like 4 of them, it's one of those where you can only really see, in my opinion, those people all just winning twice and then 3 times. And so you just get, so in my opinion, Rhea wins this year, then Charlotte wins the year afterwards, they're both 2 times winners, and then Becky wins the year after that, she's the winner, then Bayley can win again in a few years' time. By that point, Bianca Belair will kind of, maybe she has she might leave, have her kid, come back. Do you know what I mean? And then she can win it again, and she's a winner, and then Rhea Ripley wins again in like 2032. Like, I think they've got enough. You laugh.
Oh, like you're reading that from a script,
you laugh, but I just think that's just WWE for you. Like, I think they're going to they like to stick predictable with these things to a certain extent. And I know it sounds kind of, maybe a little bit boring to an extent, but I think they're going to want to just, particularly after the fuss and faff of last year, they're going to pinpoint these WrestleMania main events and say, look, you're getting John Cena against, and then the next night on Raw, he'll pick his person, who most likely will be Gunther, at WrestleMania. And then, if it's Becky Lynch, or if it's Charlotte Flair, or if it's Rhea Ripley, their pick, obviously their champion as well. And so I think they're going to want to do. They're not going to want to do so much of the teasing and stuff, because they don't want to risk the scenario from last year. Because again, what one could argue is, okay, what if someone does win the Rumble? Does that? But then Becky Lynch returns the next night. Is Becky Lynch going to become up the Rock and to be like, well, actually, the match against me,
squeeze me in. Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're going to want to just nip it in the bud to get it out of the way, and we just go. I think again, with it being international, this Netflix thing, I think they're going to want to just really hit the ground running. With this being the first big pay-per-view.
Yeah, true.
On Netflix.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a question. So obviously, I know you were saying about Cena being obviously doing the 17-time thing, which I would love to see happen. I mean, arguably, Cena has already defeated Flair's because it's just the WWE title. So technically, Cena's already beaten the Flair's record on a technicality, but however, it's WWE record.
Yeah,
so
it's most overall. But anyway.
Yeah. But I have an option for you. I just want to play devil's advocate. Cena's only a triple crown. Would you rather Cena break Flair's record of the 17-time, or would you rather him win the IC title? Because he's never won.
This keeps coming up, but I don't think he needs to. I think he probably would do it. I mean, maybe that might be another thing he does. I mean, because again, I would like to see the Open Challenge brought back. That could be a good way.
That'd be great.
Especially
to put someone over at Mania.
The thought that I had was that it depends. I mean, I keep bouncing between two ideas about Cena. I'm either of the ilk that they're going to long it out and do him almost like he almost wins the Rumble, and then he almost qualifies for the Chamber or something, and then he almost wins the top, and they build up the whole year. But the only thing that gets me thinking they won't do that is just what if? It's just like what if he gets injured, what if, and I think they're going to have to make sure those moments that there's a list of stuff they want to do, and they're going to make sure those moments are happening as part of it. But something I did kind of have in the reserve, like if he wasn't to win a world championship, which I think he has to, is that he wins the IC title, brings up the US Open Challenge, and then obviously he has that, and he can face obviously people from the main roster, NXT, whatever, defend that, even on house shows, all that kind of stuff. Let him have let's say a couple of months of that, and the last person be Randy Orton.
Yeah.
And then they obviously, they find a way to get that match done properly as his kind of final kind of match. Or Randy Orton cost him the championship, and then he then says the only thing to do is to fight you one more time. But then with how Randy Orton's been like the last year in the company anyway, it seems very much like he's in that position now where people won't boo him. People will not boo Randy Orton for love nor money. So I think the only way they have to do it is just look. I think they might just do like the typical Saudi / Brock Lesnar type thing of just look. This is the match, just when it's happening.
Yeah.
Like you don't need anything more. Like it's a 20+ year rivalry between people who the universe just bloody adore. But yeah, if there was a choice of that, my answer would be I prefer him to win another world championship. I don't know how you would feel, Scott. I don't think he's never really gone after it. So it's not like it's something where I'm like, if he came back and starts caring about it, I'd be like, well, you didn't care about it like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Whereas with Sheamus, it's different. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because he's always been a world title guy, as you say, like other than winning the US title those 2 times, like before you become world champion, and obviously that open challenges. So it kind of feels like if they're going to prioritize one, it should probably be the world title thing. Now, look, there's always going to be a part of me that thinks he shouldn't be overtaking Flair because they are completely different wrestlers, and I was, I have many years where I wasn't a fan of John Cena, I have to be honest, and that's changed again, thankfully. I feel I can appreciate certain things, but sometimes I watch back from that era and I think, like I was right, like it was shoved down our throat, it was annoying, but as much as I do appreciate his work now, he certainly did have too many title reigns, right? So him getting that crowning would I think of me years ago and how I'd feel about it back then, and I'd think, no, I don't want that to happen. But moving away from it, I guess now I do want that to happen. So it's a bit kind of a turmoil in my head as far as what I really think about it. But look, if I'm allowing that, I don't mind him win the IC either. I think like he could. It is an opportunity to win the IC first. And have this kind of open challenge type thing again. That's the opportunity to have a lot of young guys face him. And you got to think it's going to be like Gold Dust, not the wrestler, but but the I guess the item, the product in itself, as far as trying to get a match with John Cena, it's going to be a massive privilege. Whatever you do or don't like about Cena, there's no doubt in how important this would be to a wrestler. So it's going to be interesting to see who they do pick as far as his opponents go, and of course his final opponent as well, which we're going to use that as one of our questions, by the way, guys. So get thinking about that. We'll come back to later on. Swinging it back around to the Royal Rumble itself, I think John Cena is a great shout because it does kick. It depends what they're doing for him in a year, right? But I kind of feel like it's going to be CM Punk. And I'll talk about why I think CM Punk when we get to our WrestleMania main event predictions. But I'm going to say CM Punk for the men's, and I'm going to say for the women. You know what? I agree with what you're saying, Lucas. That maybe someone like Rhea or Charlotte, but I think the potential backlash for a Charlotte win is kind of dangerous. But if someone who has all the ingredients to be what we usually like it to be, someone breaking into that next tier, is the person we mentioned earlier on who didn't pick up a title, and that is Michin. I think she's the kind of character that could be thrust into the kind of main storyline and be the WrestleMania main event. As far as the women's division goes, or one of the women's divisions goes, I just don't know if they're going to do it. I think your prediction there is more likely, essentially, that it will be someone that is established. And I think if that's the case, even Becky would be too. Like, if it had to be someone that's done it already and had to be a made star, I think I'd go with Rhea again, just to kind of. I think it cause less backlash. Essentially,
I think it would cause more.
Do you think?
I'm kind of the position. Obviously, I've been watching it from, as you said at the beginning, kind of from a different perspective, because I've been trying to play catch up. So there's times when I've watched it, I've not kind of seen the backlash. So when I'm watching it, I'm with my own peace of mind. I'm like, look, certain, as we said so many times, certain people don't need to have a title to be relevant. And I think currently Ripley's in this set of, she doesn't need to win the Rumble to look dominant. She 100%. Does it already. You know, I think you're right, honestly, with Michin. I would have said the same thing with if it was Michin that won and Chelsea Green would have been, and you would have been that other person, you know. So they interchangeable, either of those. I mean, look, I'm not against Ripley winning. I think it'd be great. But then what? She goes after Liv Morgan. We're already in that feud. There's nothing special.
And you're right. It is kind of stagnant at times. As much as I really enjoy Rhea's work, it's becoming quite stagnant with quite a few of the storylines. And I think the risk is these, I guess, let's face it, legends now. Like, they're going to be in that legends bracket. Charlotte, Becky, Sasha, of course, she's not around. But, those 4 horsewomen as well, Bailey. So that's why it kind of feels like, you keep doing them. I guess the risk, like you say, if you do Rhea, she gets into that same sort of period of like, you keep doing her now, and she could kind of get a bit stale for people as well.
Just realise Rhea is facing Liv on the debut episode of Raw on Netflix for the title. So there is a potential she wins. Could already be.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and let's hope. I think that probably is the best call, to be fair. All right, let's move away from the Royal Rumble for now, but let's talk about what, of course, that will inevitably impact. I'll go first with this one because I've kind of teased it already, but CM Punk, I've got a feeling that they are going to do CM Punk Roman Reigns, which is throwing everything all over the place. So because CM Punk Seth is already happening, so it won't be that, right? And who's the world champion by them? Would it be Gunther? I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Gunther's still it and someone completely different wins the Rumble to face Gunther. But at the moment, it's kind of hard to tell because, even 6 months ago, we would have all said, all right, so how are they going to squeeze in Cody and The Rock? And we'll talk a little bit about Rock later on. Or are they doing Roman and Rock? Or is it Roman and Solo, which they're now doing on Raw, which is so bizarre. What a stacked card. And by the way, guys, subscribe to us because we are going to be digging deep into Netflix and Raw's arrival on that very soon as well. So again, if you haven't already, please subscribe. We'll do one of our famous build-up shows on the night of that as well, because it is, let's face it, looking like a PLE card, not just a PLE card, a WrestleMania card at the moment. But let's put it aside for now. But it has shaken things up quite a bit, so I can kind of see CM Punk Roman, because that is a big story in itself, and we've looked at, you know, the whole kind of thing with what do you call it, the favor and stuff like that. But then in order to do that, of course, that would mean Roman is champion by then. So I'm not sure with that either, because this go ahead.
I just say, what if Punk's champion by then?
How?
And it's the other way, so Roman is the chaser.
And so Roman wins the Royal Rumble. I think people would be happy with that. Weirdly enough, years ago, that would have been a comment that would have not gone down too well.
I mean, look at 2014 Rumble.
How's Punk getting the belt though in this scenario?
I honestly, I don't know. The problem, and I really weird to say this, the problem with WWE right now is they've got too many guys that are top tier and they're too stacked up there.
Yeah.
Far too many. And that's never an issue because, again, it's interchangeable.
I guess before we discuss this, shall we just both, yes or no, like, are Cody and Gunther going to still be champions at WrestleMania? Do people think?
I don't know, because Randy's got to turn on Cody at some point as well.
Everyone's got to turn on Cody, apparently.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I would like to see, honestly, I'd like to see Owens.
Because that, for me, defines the question of the main event, because obviously that's one integral part of it. But both the men's champions and obviously the women's champions as well, which we can get to, I guess, separately. But for the men, like, do we believe that the current men's world champions will still be their champion by them? In terms of the women's side, that at the moment, an internal thing that's going around for the Rumble card is that Tiffany Stratton will be facing Nia Jax. And that's kind of on a lot of people's kind of sheets, either for the Rumble or for the Saturday Night's main event.
Sorry, is that cash-in or?
Not too sure.
Okay.
I'm not too sure, but it's currently on the kind of internal match listings for those events. So it could be where maybe she announced the cash-in, or whether she earns a match another way, that happens that way. But it does very much seem, in my opinion, that Nia Jax won't be champion for much longer, based on that information. I feel the pops that Tiffany's getting are getting to the point where they've got to action something on it, you know, and they've got the heat already on Nia, and Nia, don't get me wrong, she's done a really fantastic job. Obviously, we spoke earlier about Chelsea Green. Obviously, her kind of her kind of turnaround, obviously, from this. But I think Nia Jax too, you know, like, she was someone who people literally shouted and screamed to get released, you know, and
she's had a good run so far.
Parties, you know, when she got released the first time. Since she came back, and it was rough at first, you know, it was a bit rocky, wasn't it, when she first came back? But she kind of hit the ground running, I think, in this run. But we are getting to the point where it does seem that it's ready to move on, and Tiffany Stratton is, in my opinion, just a once in a generation kind of talent, I think. You know, and it's getting to the point where the pops are getting louder and louder, the Tiffy Time stuff, like the merchandise sales are good. You know, do they change that one up? But yeah, for the men, I don't know. Like, for me, I think they're going to I think they're definitely going to keep Gunther. And even Cody, just basically they're not being like a big enough feud at the moment for Cody.
Who would you say would be a big enough feud for Cody? I think the Kevin Owens thing going on at the moment, I'm actually enjoying. Yeah. Kevin walking around with the other title as well is fantastic.
I think it's good, but I just feel that they've just shown that they don't want to pull the trigger on him as champion like too many times now. And so, in the case of, in my opinion, I don't think they're ever going to do it again. Randy Orton would have been a good one, but I feel that it's either at the stage where they are saving that for WrestleMania, or it's just not going to happen. That's kind of how I feel. It should have already happened previously, and it didn't. And it hasn't happened yet. And we're at that moment where we kind of need to know. But then again, it's one of the cases. Does Randy Orton become that 3-time Rumble winner? And then, you know, face Cody, you know. But Punk winning the Rumble was an interesting one, because, like, I don't see how we get to Punk and Reigns, although I do think we are going to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, but because he needs to main event WrestleMania. That's the thing about Punk, right? That
Which is the
is
last second night, right? Is it
Yeah,
not?
but I would argue now in WWE's terms they could say night one as
Yeah.
well. I think that would make sense because, as you said, Rob, it is weirdly enough too stacked. There's so many people deserving and kind of believable in that position. Again, we mentioned earlier on with the Rock, Rock and Cody and Rock. Then you got Roman and Cody. They've basically said, look, we want to go out again because Roman and Cody still clearly aren't buddies, So
are they really going to finish the Rollins and Punk thing so quickly? Their first match is obviously on the Raw debut of Netflix.
but then that leaves next year for Punk to maybe headline WrestleMania. I just think he's gonna headline. I don't know. Maybe that ship has sailed because of last year in the injury. I don't know. I do think Randy Orton is the way to go. I think that would be a great main event. But again, if that's the WWE World Title match, then where does Punk fit? Where does Rock fit? Where what I mean? Where does Roman fit? Because there is still only technically 2 main events. You know what I mean? It's hard to call in that sense as well. Aaron says Jada McDonough will be impersonating Santa Claus today. Okay, well that'd be nice. So keeping it festive. Of course, for those watching live at the moment, we are. It feels like hours now, 2 days at least away from Christmas. So Merry Christmas to everyone that's watching. If you're watching this after Christmas, Happy New Year. And if you're watching this in the new year, thanks for coming back, guys. Hopefully these predictions are wildly out of time already, as they will be throughout this stream, because we are going to go later on in the year as well. We're safely talking at the moment about those early few months of the year, but later on we will wrap up with things like John Cena's final opponent and the Money in the Bank as well. Saying that, let's have a quick fire then with this one, guys. Just gut feeling WrestleMania main events, and I'm not talking male and female. I'm talking, what do you think WWE are literally going to make night 1 and night 2? So it could be, if you genuinely think there'll be a female main event, fair enough. I don't think there will, because as we mentioned, there is so much going on in the men's roster. I don't think they're going to go for the 50-50 booking. I think they're just going to go for what is the bigger storylines at the moment. And that's no, kind of slide on the women's roster or anything like that. But let's just be honest, there is a lot going on in the men's kind of main event scene at the moment. So let's go one by one. If your heart, no, not even your heart, what does your mind say, Rob? What do you think? Night 1, night 2, as quick as we can.
Bronson Reed, Gunther, night 1.
Bronson Reed, Gunther. Is Bronson Reed going to be back in time for that?
It's an ankle injury. I reckon it could be possible.
Yeah.
Okay, and night 2? And night 2?
Randy Orton versus a heel Cody Rhodes.
Flipping heck. All right. Lucas, night 1.
I think the women will main event night 1.
Okay.
I think they'll do the Lesnar thing where Reigns will go on like first or whatever. Or wherever the big match is.
Right.
The match will go on first and then women will go last. Think that
who would that be, though? Who would the women be?
Depends what combination they're going to go with, but now it's changed my mind. Now it's not going to be Rhea, it'll be Becky winning the Rumble, based on the fact that I think Rhea will be champion. So if they're going to do Becky and Rhea, something like that, I think it's a big enough match. Becky and Rhea I'll go with, and then night 2, I think will definitely be Cody Rhodes, but I don't know whether he'll be facing The Rock or Randy Orton. But I'll go Cody Rhodes match last, just for a quick answer.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go night 1. Oh, this is tough. Night 1, Cody versus Randy Orton. Night 2, CM Punk Roman Reigns. Somehow. I don't know.
Well, if it's a tribal combat thing, or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Well, no, not that. It's just a no holds barred match.
Yeah, if they do that, I think that's enough for it to kind of. Or they might even give it a Hell in a Cell gimmick, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah, it could go the other way around. But then, what's the favour? We're going to go into a million tangents here. Let's be safe and let's move away from that one. I know this is wild, and again, it's a long, long way away now. But let's say, what do you think is going to happen with Money in the Bank winners? Who do you think is going to break through that ceiling at the moment? Looking at the field at the moment, again, men and women. You know what? I'll go first on this one because I think if it isn't going to be her for the Royal Rumble, then I think maybe Michin is the one to win the Money in the Bank. Then on the men's side, I think they might just go LA Knight. I think at some point he's going to be jumping back into that main title picture. It'll feel like 2 years behind from when we all thought it was going to happen in London at that time. But yeah, I'm going to go LA Knight. Again, this is hard to tell at the moment, right, guys? We're 6 months away from, pretty much 7 months away from this actually being the case. But just judging how the roster is at the moment and where you could see, I guess, the safer bets, I'm going to go Michin and LA Knight. Lucas, what are you thinking?
So for the male side of things, I actually think something that Rob was saying earlier about the Rumble winners, I think they might do for the Money in the Bank instead. I think someone from NXT will win the briefcase. I think that something I think we're going to see big time happen, as we're already started to see already, you know, as they have always sent some main roster stars down to NXT. NXT stars are appearing more on WWE main programming, and particularly because obviously, again, something we haven't touched upon, at the start of January, SmackDown joins the 3 Hour Club and Raw returns to 3 hours. So there's a lot of TV to film. You know, they're going from both shows at the moment are 2 hours apiece, and that tends to mean there's 4 matches per show. NXT obviously also 2 hours, but both the main roster shows are going to 3 hours. And one has to imagine there'd be extra match spots to fill every day. not imagining it, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
Bill, isn't there? So, you know, with there being potentially an extra 2 or 3 matches having to take place on each show, plus the satellite main event, I think we are going to see more NXT integration. I think that, you know, something which was said following their recent NXT being on the road, which we're going to see more of them in 2025 as well, is that they are seeing that there is a benefit to them having main roster people, you know, be part of the road shows to help sell the tickets. And so I think they're now going to see it as a two-way street. How about we try and make that star our own? And I think Money in the Bank is something I said this year. I think I kind of alluded to it last year, but this year I really said it. I personally feel it actually is a format that needs to be rested. But I do believe that it could have life in it if they choose to use it differently. Problem I had with it this year, particularly with the men's one, is Drew didn't need it. They gave it to Drew for a storyline bit, and then it was done and dusted within a night.
Yeah.
And, you know, someone else could have used and benefited from that briefcase.
I think, though, the weird thing is, I think WWE didn't need it. Like, there was so, as we keep saying, there's so much going on. It's very top heavy at the moment when it comes to the men's heavyweight division, world title picture. So, like, that kind of dealt with a problem that they would have had otherwise, where they would have had someone lurking in the background who probably would have failed to cash in anyway, you know. So it kind of leads back into that kind of Austin Theory scenario of a few years ago. So that's why I'm kind of going with even a safer bet of LA Knight. I'm thinking because I can't see the title needing a big shake-up. Like, that used to matter when you were like, I'm sick of this person, but like the top of the roster's been entertaining for quite some time. So
yeah, I mean, I guess it depends, obviously, you know, because obviously not knowing, you know, when they decide the winner, do they then decide, you know, when the cashing will take place, if it's successful or not, you know, yada yada yada, or do they just coast it out? And let's be real, sometimes they've just coasted it out, and we've got gold. When obviously, you know, like Dolph cashed in, well, that's phenomenal, and that's definitely something they coasted for a long time on. They sat on that for a long time, and then went, oh, okay, yeah, now's the time to do it. But there was talk when Otis won. Your favourite, Scott. Otis won. You know,
the stream is going so well, boys. Why do we ever bring that up?
Yeah, you know, I've got to mention it at some point. There was realistic talk within the company, particularly when it was pandemic here at WWE, about him obviously cashing in potentially for the tag titles. Believe it or not, I always had another tag partner. It's bonkers. You know, Tucker. I think he retired as well this year. I believe he retired.
Did he?
Yeah,
Tucker and Dozer, wasn't it? That was their thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tucker. And so I think that there is room where they do something different with it. But I feel that, yeah, like, but this year, it very much felt like, oh, we don't want either of the champions to lose. So let's just sort it out all in one night with the easy kind of option of doing how we did it. Also, this year, what interrupted Money in the Bank was the King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring tournaments, which obviously, if they remain in their obviously the Saudi shows haven't been confirmed yet, I don't believe, for next year. But if they stay in that same location, the same position in the year, it also will then mess up Money in the Bank, because then you've got two people. You've got the guaranteed title match at SummerSlam, and you're walking with the briefcase, and you've got the champions. And also they changed the rule as well, where it's your brand's champion. Like, they made it very different from what it used to be. But I think to give it a breath of life. And the thing is with WWE, remember, they got precedent with this. Remember the year they only had former WWE champions in the match? The year of Big Show's Big Ladder, that one. They've done the weird things before where they've had like this. So I think, in my opinion, I think an NXT winner would be good. And I believe because he's going to most likely lose the belt, I would even shout out Trick Williams. I think he's got the charisma to do it. He's popular and over the NXT audience, and I just believe that is just going to only kind of carry over to the main roster audience. And it's that shock factor. It brings that shock factor back with the briefcase. For the women, I think they'll play it a bit safer. And the women won't be interesting because at the time when we're going to obviously record the podcast on this, so the prediction, obviously we will have had 6 to 7 months of the mid-card women's belts existing.
Yeah.
And I believe that essentially the women's Money in the Bank will go to someone who they feel is kind of just above those mid-card belts, but hasn't quite reached the next stage. So it could be where, like, Meechin or Chelsea Green, like, you know, Chelsea Green was to lose the championship by then, and it's a case of she wouldn't really then, you know, do you really want her to keep going for the women's US title over and over again? And I think that kind of question will come up. But again, we're talking in 6 months' time of like, well, you know, Chelsea Green's over enough. She's proven it with the mid-card belt. But we can't just go, okay, right, now Chelsea Green's facing Rhea Ripley. We need this to happen. So I think, I'm going to go and say Chelsea Green then, actually, just off that. I think, she can hold the mid-card belt for a few months. She can then have a feud with, well, anyone really. Maybe come out successful off that feud, and then, you know, straight into the Money in the Bank match and become, you know, I think as well, this year as well, the women, something which I think is very important to remember is that Tiffy, they've made a lot on the merchandise of Tiffy, of the whole Tiffy time, and the briefcase being pink. And just imagine what Chelsea Green would do for it. She had different outfits for every week, and really pimp it up. And again, that's just merchandise. So I think, if anything else, the women's one might just follow that as a yearly basis now. Like, make the women's one something which is like an accessory.
Bit of a storyline around the briefcase itself, which they've done a few times again in the past with, you know, Brock and
the other else. Two options I have. I won't take it quickly, sorry, and I'm rambling a little bit. But the only option I have is either Bianca or Jade Cargill in that feud. But again, this is where this is hindsight, because you know this is a feud that is going on.
Yeah,
and a storyline that's going on with Jade Cargill being injured. But is she injured or is she injured? You know,
I think she actually has an injury.
I'm sorry?
I think
we don't know how severe it is and what that means time-wise. So,
I don't know how much of it you caught up on, but they've been very vague and weird about it. Like, at first it was reported that it wasn't an injury, and then they then didn't want to. She was meant to be in War Games. Then she got removed from War Games, but they weren't vacating the belts. You know, they had done previously.
It's been a bit weird, hasn't it?
And they wouldn't. And then obviously people saying the obvious thing would be to have Naomi just become the replacement partner, like they did with Chelsea, and that's why we got Chelsea and Piper Niven, didn't we?
Yeah.
But you know, they haven't done that. you know, and this injury, you know, there's no like, they haven't done the usual kind of announcement of like how long it's going to be till she recovers and all that kind of stuff.
Which could be leading to a surprise, essentially. Some sort of, I mean, even the Royal Rumble's coming around the corner, and the revelation of who's done it, of course, is a big talking point. But yeah, we'll dive into that, I'm sure, in the next few weeks. We're going to go much further afield with our predictions here. But you're saying Money in the Bank, you wouldn't be surprised, essentially, if is shaking it up with someone from NXT. And as you say, we've got to see where these chips kind of land, really, when it comes to who is a mid-carder and who is a main kind of title picture cut, you know, put that level of card essentially, and how do we differentiate those, and then using the Money Bank as this kind of ladder, pardon the pun, but essentially to get you to that next step, which is the way, again, we've always said on this channel how we enjoy these spots being used, both that and the Royal Rumble. A few comments here going to get to as well. Sly Sports says, for me, Money in the Bank, I have 5 options: Gable, Carmelo, Ludwig, Pete Dunne, and Dragunov, which is my favorite. Some great points there, and some I could see more than others, but some that certainly deserve the position at this, you know, point in their career on the card in that way. Also have Grayson Waller, Bronson Reed, Jay Uso, of course, is a big shout. We talked about that a lot on this past Money in the Bank, PLE. There you go. You have your ladder match. I mean, it's a great ladder match in itself, even if you don't necessarily have, you know, a winner in mind. Also says I would pay to see that match. And for the women's Money in the Bank, I have Tiffany Stratton. We'll get to Tiffany in a moment because there's a chance.
Weirdly, my question was
twice.
I don't think Money in the Bank is something people need to win twice.
No.
You know, I would have had it as like it's a one and done. No, Punk did it famously back to back.
But imagine to stretch it out because you really don't know what to do, or you know you want someone to win it eventually. So what you do is you have them lose it and they win it straight back, and it just continues that storyline for 2 years. In some ways, it's a risk. It could really get stale with the audience.
Well,
it could be done well.
It is a risk, you know, because you are relying upon an uncertainty to happen, which is why I guess we've seen so many of these quick or same night even cash-ins, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a case of, look, that night we can vouch for because you're going to be there. You know, we're all going to be there. Everyone's going to be fine. But even like the next day, like it's unknown. You know, we said, with the Finn Balor, Universal title run, we've seen that was a 1 day thing. That was he won the belt, but the next night, bye. I'm injured, and does that? With Money in the Bank. We've seen obviously people have to vacate it. We've seen people have to lose it,
defend it,
I'd like to actually see more of that though. The briefcase being on the line, actually being defended.
Oh, I don't like that at all.
Don't like it?
Nah, because you want it in the match. It's like when they've done it with a Rumble spot in the past as well. It's like, nah, like that. I think
already earned it.
I think devalues the match. Right, Rob.
Sorry.
Quick fire. Men's, women's Money in the Bank, because I want to get onto Tiffany Stratton in a bit more detail soon.
I want to quickly throw some names at you. Some of the stuff that Sludge has said. Ludwig, yes. Carmelo, 100%. Dragunov, if he come back, would be great. I'd love to see it. Can I just say, as I said, I think I have a massive love for Bronson Reed, but can you imagine him on top of the ladder and just hitting a tsunami on someone and just taking both of them out? Even that through a table, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, judging by
wants to win the match, but just
yeah, it'd be a great moment, but I think he might want to hold off on the big spots for a while.
Maybe. So look, I'm going to throw a name out there that I think is going to pee a lot of people off, but I think the idea of the Money in the Bank, for some people, is you actually hate the person and the fact that they have it. Firstly, can I just say, Damian Priest, in my opinion, one of the worst Money in the Bank holders I think I've ever seen.
No,
listen, and let me quickly tell you why. He had multiple chances, right, to cash that title in on an injured Seth Rollins when he couldn't move because of Shinsuke Nakamura, and he didn't come out.
Yeah,
what's an idiot? He was
stage of them all, mate. Did it grand stage of them all with a great and again a memorable moment that I'm calling one of my favorite of the year. So
wow,
take that.
But,
right,
I get it.
Let's take some Money in the Bank, and of course we had the mention there of Tiffany Stratton. This is something we can, other than a scenario that Lucas just said, something drastically going wrong with injury, or who knows, she gets fired somehow or something like that. Pretty much looks nailed on, right? Because it has to happen within the year, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen within the next couple of days that are left in this year. But Tiffany Stratton will be cashing in some way. So again, we'll go round with this. When do I'll go first with it actually, because when do you think it will be? Do you think it'd be successful, and who's it going to be on? And I'm starting to feel like it's not going to be on Nia Jax because it's been too obvious. And therefore, she's going to cash in on Rhea Ripley, who has just beat Liv Morgan on Raw. Now, this isn't very far away, don't get me wrong. So, hey, I'm sure we'll touch on this on the build-up. Yours might be closer to the next Money in the Bank PLE. I don't know. But I'm thinking, you know what? I'm going to go out there. Kind of wild card guess, I guess, if you will. I think she's going to cash in on Rhea Ripley and win the title that way. Lucas, what are your thoughts?
I am with you for two of the 3 things. I think the cash in will happen on the Raw debut of Netflix, but I think it will be on Nia Jax.
Okay.
That's where we're getting the Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton match at the Rumble.
Right. So successful then.
Yes. Successful cash in, and then they do the default thing where they announce a rematch for either the Rumble or.
That makes sense.
It fits into that match existing.
Yeah.
Her not having to announce a cash in and look silly. So I think she'll do it. Because again, we've got the whole trading window thing open, haven't we? Whatever they're calling it this year. And I think, like I've said earlier in this video, sooner rather than later with these things, I'd say, and that is very soon.
Be safe with it, yeah.
Depending on how you're looking at it. And yeah, it just gives the title match. Well, the thing is with that, it's always an interesting one because the cash in match isn't the same as a normal match. So I always argue this with people. People say, "Oh, it's obvious that they're going to retain," because number one, it's not, because Charlotte Flair, she was cashed in on by Nikki Cross. I refuse to say that silly name she got given a few years ago. Well, actually, sorry, she gave herself that name. Actually, to be fair, wasn't one of Vince's bad ideas. Nikki Cross, she was cashed in upon. Then she did win the belt back at the next pay-per-view. So we have seen it previously. So I think it's one of those where, because the Rumble, and again we'll get to when we talk about the Rumble problem is when they have the title matches, we generally know they don't usually do too much in them. So they're kind of just, and the other matches are just filler as well, aren't they? But yeah, that's what I see happening. What do you think, Rob?
Sorry, so 2 things. I just want to say the guy who I think is going to win Money in the Bank, then we'll get on to Tiffany.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
the person that I think is actually winning Money in the Bank is Logan Paul.
Oh, wow, yeah. Sorry, mate, let's get straight over you there, but wait.
Right.
Well,
so I was going to say,
because
right, the fact that he's saying he's coming out of retirement, he done that big thing for Netflix. And I think if you're going to, I don't want to swear on the show, but if you want to PI double snake someone off that much, you're going to give it to someone that you truly hate, right? Yeah. And I think the fact that someone like Logan will have it and he has that ability, he just has to walk into a room and you don't like him. Like, annoyingly, that he just has that persona. So I think Logan having that briefcase, I actually think would be really good for that moment in that briefcase. And I think him cashing it in, I actually would like to see him cash it in and be successful, regardless on what title. But I think it's something that would be a great investment.
That's crazy.
In regards to Tiffany, though, it's controversial. 2 things I think are either going to happen. One, she's going to run out of time and then she's going to have to win the briefcase again. Something I'd like to see because we haven't had it. And then the other thing that we haven't seen, which I keep saying, I think I said this a couple of years ago, is I think Tiffy's winning the Rumble. And then she goes on to Mania, loses that Mania match, then cashes in her briefcase. Like, why has this not happened yet?
And she feels like the kind of character that would do that as well.
She's not stupid. She's played Nia
I like that. I like that. Okay. All right, let's move away from kind of big match winners and stuff like that and talk about big match John and his final year. We touched on it a little bit earlier on. Of course, Lucas talked about potentially open challenges. Rob was talking about him going after either the IC or does he go straight into the world title picture? What's your kind of rough kind of year for John Cena, and ultimately who do you think his final opponent will be? I'm kind of torn on this one. I think the kind of idea that Lucas said earlier on about trying to kind of find his way into big matches and it keep kind of failing, he doesn't win the Rumble, he doesn't win the Chamber, and doesn't win Money in the Bank.
Didn't that happen a couple of years ago though? I'm sure that happened a few years ago.
And that was to try and get into WrestleMania. Do you remember when he
against The Rock, wasn't
it? Well, no, the Undertaker. The one with the Undertaker as well.
Yeah,
and then Shawn Michaels also with the Undertaker. Similar kind of stories there, but I think a weird one is that it's his final year, so the last PLE is going to have to be big as well. So is it Survivor? Is it, when does that happen? I think something's got to happen with Randy Orton. I think it would be poetic if Randy was his last opponent, but it does feel like he might make someone. But he could do that throughout the year. You know, I'm thinking Ludwig, I'm thinking Gunther, you know, but I kind of don't see them as his final opponent. So again, it's one of those where I'm going to play it safe rather than Baron Corbin in Kurt Angle's situation. As much as I like Corbin and it's a shame to see him go, we all know that shouldn't have been the main goodbye essentially for our Olympic hero, and it should have been probably ironically John Cena. So if we're going down that same path, I think the safest bet, and I think the one that the fans would appreciate the most, is Randy. But the other scenario is that Randy just plays into the kind of title picture which happens earlier in the year. So because I think a lot of these things are going to happen last year, there will be a title thing, there will be something to do with Randy, and there will be something to do with kind of young blood. I think the safest bet is to have Randy be the one that kind of ends his career. So for me, it's going to end with a match against Randy Orton. Lucas, what are your thoughts? John Cena.
So yeah, he has announced and confirmed that he is going to be a full-time member of the roster next year. He's not dipping in and out. He's full-time. He wants to be on both. He wants to be on all brands, he said. And obviously how that comes to fruition, we shall see. As obviously John Cena was the one who did stand at Money in the Bank seemingly an eternity ago and scream that and demand that we were going to get WrestleMania in London, and it's not happened, and it's not been announced to happen at least for the next couple of years anyway. But I'm hoping that they just say, look, John, Nussbaum's away, like what do you want to do? Like now with the management they've got, and with the trust they should have in him, that he's not going to just, you're not going to go, oh yeah, you're going to put all the belts on me at once and then I'm going to just leave. Like I do think they, I would like to see him do some stuff down at NXT. I'd like to see him do, some throwbacks. Some kind of iconic matches that could have existed. I mean, because again, a name that's not been mentioned actually in this discussion when it comes to John Cena so far, and we're so focused on obviously Randy Orton, they've got to revisit the Punk thing. Surely they've got to do Cena and Punk one more time. Yeah, I reckon they might even do it at Money in the Bank.
Oh, that would be cool. That'd be cool. I think
that's kind of match after Mania though.
Yeah, but he's not retiring at Mania. He's doing a whole year.
He was retiring at Mania, no?
No, it's his last Mania, but he's doing a whole year.
Right. I actually thought he was retiring at Mania.
No. So yeah, we got a long way to go, and that's why there's just so many possible things that can happen. Because as Lucas says, apparently he's going to be a full-time member. So
yeah, basically for Rob, just to get you up to scratch, he's basically confirmed he's going to be a full-time superstar for the entire 2005, and that he will not wrestle a single match for any amount of money after New Year's Eve next year. He's not interested.
Right. Okay. So I think as it was Final Mania, so I was like, oh well, if he goes out of Mania, he's putting someone over.
It's one of those statements. It's right on both ways. Because yes, it is his Final Mania. Then you could also read that as being it's his final match.
Right?
Yeah. I'm with you now.
I reckon they actually might do a December pay-per-view next year
because of that,
31st December,
or
even something like Night's Main Event, kind of some sort of special or something.
Yeah.
But again, this is where the Netflix international deal is so bloody integral, because one has, much as we love Christmas and all that kind of stuff, you have to remember over half the world don't celebrate it, so there'll be over half the world that will be open to be watching something like that, like live, and even without that, John Cena's a big enough draw, to be able to do it, like as his final thing. But yeah, I think that they're going to do Randy Orton in his final match. By the way, who do you think?
Well,
now that there's a lot longer to it.
It kind of changed my. So this is what I thought. I thought if it was Mania, I think Cena is respectable enough in the business to know if he's going out, he's going out on his back, and two, he's going out putting someone else over. Like he knows the business, So I thought if it was Mania, this is what I was saying about the IC, because I would have loved Cena to have the IC and Carmelo Hayes be the one to basically beat Cena at Mania to win the IC title.
I can see that.
One Melo then says, I am the last person to beat Cena.
Yeah.
And I won the title for him. So it's like a big deal. I guess that could still happen at Mania. It'd be a nice kind of run. But man, no, I don't know. Like I said, my mind was like, oh, it's Mania and done. I still think he's going to go out putting someone over. I really do. I think it needs to be someone as well. I mean, I would like to see if they do like a special thing as well for like 31st. I reckon they could do like a WWE in your house, like a hustle, order, and respect.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it'll be something like that. I mean, I wouldn't be against that either. I know it's a bit gimmicky, but
yeah, and you could
know,
even have like a lot of his kind of former big rivals appear on that show in matches that pay homage to Cena's career. You know what I mean? Like certain match types he's had and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that, because this is going to be an unprecedented thing. With no one's ever walked away from his kind of stardom in this way. So it's going to be massive. But yeah, I kind of get where you're coming from there as far as going out on his back as well. He does feel like the kind of person that would do that. So do you think, therefore, it would be someone that is a younger wrestler in order to do that? I mean, or would he do that for someone like a Randy Orton?
The thing is, as well, I think I look at it as Randy's one of those guys that's like, do you know what? The honor is there.
Yeah.
But this should be for someone else. Like, again, I think Randy's now with that maturity and the way he speaks about the business. Obviously, he's still going compared to someone like Cena, for example, of the same age. He's like, he still wants to be the wrestler. And I think someone like Randy I don't think he needs, as much as we'd love to see it, I don't think it should be Randy. You know, same as if Edge was there. Again, I don't think it should be Edge. It should be someone that's gonna capitalize from this, but someone that they've really got stock in and invest in. So I don't know who, but I think this year they build someone that's going to beat Cena. I mean, Gunther.
Gunther's
I wouldn't
a good
say
shout.
no to.
That's what I was going to say. I wouldn't be surprised if it would be Gunther. It does kind of fit. I'm going to quickly get some of these comments, guys. We've got Matthew Rodriguez in the chat. Says, hey, guys, sorry for being late. No worries, buddy. You can always go back and watch it from the start on demand, but appreciate you being here either way. And he says, here is one early prediction. Penta debuts at Raw in Netflix. Teams up with Ray to face the New Day. That's an interesting point. Of course, we saw Ray preventing the New Day from going in the locker room recently. They win, but Penta turns on Ray, breaks his arm, and destroys the LWO. Interesting take there. Of course, we'll see what happens because the LWO hasn't been used that much recently. So kind of giving him a new lease of life in order to break him down for the arrival of Penta is a good call, actually. We'll get to returns and surprises in a bit more detail very soon before we do start wrapping up as well. Yon says Becky Lynch to regain the Women's World title at WrestleMania 41, a scenario that I think is quite possible, judging by Lucas's thoughts earlier on, of course, on the Royal Rumble potentially being won by one of those kind of I guess breaking into that legend tier, right? So that is possible. Right, we've done John Cena, and we've had a little bit of an example of it there, but let's talk returns and possible debuts in 2025. I think the obvious one there, it does feel like Penta's going to happen, and I think that's a great shout there from Matthew. So we'll kind of lean off of that one for now because Penta is so close to him potentially debuting anyway. Who do you think randomly throughout the year could either come back or show up? Now, it depends on contracts, but if I had to go with anyone, and I'm talking debuts now, I'm going to go Ricky Stark.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I think so.
Yeah. We all in agreement on that one?
Yeah, I can see it.
It just feels right.
I think maybe
to quote Lita's theme song.
The Rumble match, to be fair. I think it's coming soon.
Wow.
I think another one that's coming very soon is Jordan Grace.
I was about to say Jordan.
Yeah. It feels like it's already a thing, doesn't it? But officially,
but I just think, you can't position her in so many good opportunities over the past 12 months and then not sign her.
Yeah, it's for a reason.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're going to see Joe Hendry again. I think we may even see him on the main roster.
Maybe Rumble.
It's just the thing. I think they're going to really overload this Rumble match. But I don't think Rumble is the only thing that we need to focus on. I think, obviously Penta's coming in separately from Ray Phoenix, isn't he? So I think they're going to have to.
I think Phoenix has still got they're going to add a year on or something, aren't they?
Injuries or whatever.
That's been very controversial. I think
Tony Khan said that he wouldn't do.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I think that's about it. All I can think of. I think we're going to see. I don't know. I can't think who else. Who else do you reckon?
I think the returns are harder to call these days because it used to be kind of they'll be back.
Cardona. I could see Matt Cardona coming back.
Yeah, we've been saying it for a while, haven't we? There's a video on this channel, myself and Rob,
but doesn't
diving
he
into
do it if
what that
it's
would look like
under his name, though, isn't it?
Well, hey, that's what I was saying there. The video that myself and Rob did dive into what a return for Cardona would look like. Would it be a mixture of the Zack Ryder and Cardona character? Would it be straight up Zack Ryder? Would it be straight up Cardona? As I say, I believe it would be a mixture. So go and check that out on this channel if you haven't already, guys. Here's the thumbnail if you do want to look for it as well. Now, as I say, returns are a little bit harder to pick, but I think that's a great shout because you got obvious ones like The Rock. The Rock will be coming back this year. We just don't know in what capacity, right? Before we do wrap up, guys, just want to give you the opportunity to say anything else that you might not have been able to kind of squeeze into the topics we've mentioned already. Is there any kind of big prediction you have, bold prediction really, for 2025? Hand over you to first, Rob. Then we'll do Lucas. I'll do mine, and we'll wrap up from there. But thanks for everyone that's tuned in. Rob, hit us with your bold prediction.
Yeah, a couple of things. I think by the end of the year, by the end of next year even, Drew will be a world champion again. I think he has done more than earned it this year.
100%.
I would say that's one bold thing. Again, it's something that maybe you guys don't agree with, but I would love to see a heel Cody Rhodes. But then he turns back to, I don't know if you remember, have you seen him earlier on when he left, before he done the Bullet Club stuff? But he was just horrible, man. Like he had his hair black. He was like, it was just over cocky, and like people wanted to hate him. Yeah. And I think with the stuff that we're getting with the Kevin Owens thing, Cody being the one to turn, and he's like, well, what I have, because at the moment they're playing it like Cody hasn't done anything wrong, and Kevin's playing victim. So I would love to see that happen. And it turns out Owens was right, and Cody was that guy. So I'd love to see a Cody Rhodes heel turn. NXT, I can see Jada Parker potentially coming up. Sol Ruka, I could see becoming a female NXT champion at some point. I think Jonathan Gresham from TNA, I think his contract almost up. I can see him going NXT. Obviously, are they married? Him and Jordan Grace, I believe they are. Yeah. So I can see that happening. Yeah, and I also think Theory's going to get a big babyface push.
I hope
next year.
I really
to shave that beard off and make him like the new babyface Cena. Like just do it already. We know he has the potential.
Yeah, and he seems like such a nice guy as well.
Just do it. Just do it already. And finally, I think we're going to get Sheamus winning the IC title. That's one thing I really
think. Okay. Yeah, we touched on that a little bit more a little while ago as well. But that's definitely one I'd love to see. Quick to get to these comments again before I throw it back to you, Lucas. We've got Matthew saying, crazy prediction, but never going to happen. When Tony Storm's contract is up, WWE will be interested like crazy, and we have a massive bidding war on Tony. I think it has potential. I see Lucas shaking his head. I think Tony Storm's had a great year, but she's only just returned, doesn't she? And gone back to her old character. So that's got some legs, surely. But I do think if she does leave anytime soon or gets close to it, I think WWE would surely be interested. I think they clearly fumbled the bag with her, in my opinion, and had a great kind of appreciation for her when they first were using her quite well in NXT and stuff like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if she did end up back there. Also says Joe Hendry enters the Royal Rumble when John Cena is the only one standing in the Rumble face to face. The old OG meme versus the new meme. That's a cool spot, man. I like that. Thanks for your comments, buddy. Appreciate it. Lucas, anything else, mate, you want to say before we get out of here as far as big bold predictions for 2025?
So I think that I hope we are going to see the removal of War Games. I don't think that will happen, based off obviously the pay-per-view buy rates and stuff. And obviously, my video that I did last month on it. I think maybe, and this is because of the injuries done in that match, I think they might have to look at, if they don't get rid of it, I think they're going to have a look at how they produce these matches differently. Because how can you be having half the match not available to use? Like, and not just not available to use like a week or two. We're talking, Bronson Reed most likely is not going to see WrestleMania, and I think that's a problem. It's a problem they're going to have to look at. And so I don't know if they're going to change the format, or maybe just tone down the level of spots they've been doing in these matches. Because no way should Bronson Reed have been going to the top of the cage. Like, no way. Like, You know,
I mean, it was a good spot, but why? It wasn't needed.
Yeah, I mean, we did want it when we were doing the build-up, weren't we? We were talking, Lucas, about how it would be a cool spot, but I think in hindsight, looking at all those injuries that come from it, they're going to have to be a bit more cautious next year.
Yeah. Particularly as the matches now seem to involve, obviously, the top stars, you know, obviously they're previously on NXT. Like I've touched on it before, I do think there'll be more NXT integration, and I do think that the international side of the business is going to become very important for them into next year. And I think how that looks like on TV will be that there'll be more international superstars getting put in position. So I think that's where Penta, he's a big part of this. He comes in on the Raw side of things, and I think there's already a series of superstars, you know, ready to kind of go. Now, the big elephant in the room, do we see a European PLE take place? I think we're going to.
Do it in Ireland.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wait,
in Ireland.
I said, do it in Ireland, and then we crown Sheamus at that PLE.
That would be cool.
That would be cool. Quite nice, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think obviously the ship has sailed for us getting a big four. Definitely for next year and the year after, actually, because on Indianapolis getting everything, aren't they? Like, I'm confused how big that is. Like, we basically WWE have just moved in at this point.
Yeah, they'll be there for a while.
They've just moved in. Any time to pay with you, you know. But yeah, I think I feel that we will see it announced probably on the Road to WrestleMania tour. I'll just pimp this out. I am going to the Barcelona event there, so there will be more of Lucas on the road, at least for that one. I'm trying to get tickets for the Italy one as well, so we shall see how that will go. And I'm sure one of us will probably end up at the O2 for one of, or if not both of the Raw and SmackDown tapings in March next year. But yeah, I think we will get one. We will get one. I think we might actually get King of the Ring, actually.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Europe. And that'd be quite cool because you know, obviously we as Europe as a whole. But yeah, I think it will be a smaller scale kind of thing than what people were thinking previously.
Yeah.
In terms of a lot of what Rob said, it's one of those, like, it feels very much in Triple H's WWE like kind of anything could happen, but I also think that they are definitely signing people with intention of doing things with them. So I do feel we will see less of the like, oh look, they've left AEW or their contract's up. Like I truly believe that if Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and all that don't have anything for people, like we're not going to see them make the jump, or you know, the jump. They're not going to be approached to make the jump.
Right.
Toni Storm, one of those where I just think because she because she left when Triple H was kind of in charge, you know, of that booking, and because she's kind of found her niche in AEW as being pretty much one of four women that get TV time on, believe it or not, like 6 hours of TV.
Insane, isn't it?
Four women that work there apparently. I think that she will fight that. She'd rather fight that battle there rather than join the battle over in WWE, where, you know, she's not going to go in. I mean, is she even at like facing like Chelsea Green? You know, like going into that level straight away. I don't think she would be. I think she'd probably have to go in via NXT.
That's ridiculous. No. Look. AEW's not doing as well as it was, but she's still a big star. Like, she might not come in and go straight for the world title at WrestleMania, but she'd be.
I reckon she could carry
over the mid card.
I actually reckon she could carry the. For example, let's say you put her in the US kind of women's US thing. I'm not saying if we had the same story that we had with Tony throughout the year, obviously being timeless, and then I don't know if you've dabbled into much of what's happening now, but I don't know if she has like amnesia, if she's forgotten what she is. She's acting like she's about to re-debut.
Yeah, she's about
so this whole like mixture of stuff. I think that would be insane if you were able to get that on the main roster, but it's got to be done the right way. I think NXT, I'm not saying that she ain't good enough for the main roster, but I think NXT is where you get that perfect booking because it's compact. So you could fill that time with it, you know. And I think it breathes more there than it does. It's too busy on a main show for that.
Yeah, I think NXT is stacking their women's roster like a lot. And
insanely.
it'll be interesting seeing, obviously, if Jordan Grace, if she then skips NXT and goes to the main roster, because she's done stuff on both. She's been in the Royal Rumble match, and she's obviously been in NXT women's title matches.
She'd also be my outsider pick for a Money in the Bank, you know.
Yeah, I do think that there are women on NXT that could have the sky, the rocket attached to them essentially.
Yeah.
Even like someone like a Julia. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel
exactly.
If she was to win NXT women's title now, like I think that we could be talking about her as NXT call up to the main roster already by Mania. I think that's a believable run that she'd win it, lose it at Stand and Deliver, and then debut on the main roster, and then straight away be entered into US title or main women's title contention, because I think there's a lot of talent in that division. Talking of which, one bold prediction I think is that the women will definitely main event more than one pay-per-view this year. I think that there's too many big storylines that could happen with the women this year. And with big names like Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair returning at some point, I think it's just inevitable. And also I think that we will see hopefully Triple H add, if not the pre-show match back, I think that he might have to change his format with the 5-match cards, particularly with the John Cena match now involved, because you're talking essentially pay-per-views going in with, you got your world title matches for both men and women, and then you've got your John Cena match. These are all main events. So you can't sit down a pay-per-view and go, we only have 5 matches. It's like, well, what are you gonna, are you gonna leave off like a world champion?
Sorry, I was gonna say one thing that is a big pet peeve of mine, and I think the more I've been watching the show, the more it's actually wound me up. The amount of time that WWE gives for adverts and build-ups, and not every single match is going to need a long-ass 5-6 minute segment build-up. I mean, I don't like comparing one company to another, but AEW does it so well. That's why they can have like 8 matches, 9 matches on like a 2-hour card, because they just throw his stuff in. They don't overfill it. WWE needs to take so much of that away. I mean, let's go back to, let's say, like the year 2000. We had like a card with 6-7 matches on, for example. It was never as long. All the matches were good. Some of them were short, granted, but you're going to get that in every PLE. But it wasn't oversaturated with the amount of
good in 2000 is stretching.
Nostalgic wise,
I get where you're coming from, and
it's too much now, man. It's too much.
This is something we started doing quite a bit on the channel lately, about trying to find that balance. Although there are perks to the 5-match card thing, there are definitely kind of problems with it as well. But again, I agree with Lucas. I think this is something that Triple H is probably going to look into tweaking in the next year. But that does bring us to the end of the show, guys. Really do hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a fun one, diving into not only some of the stuff that we enjoyed about 2024, but of course a lot of talk about what we're going to see in 2025. And as you can imagine, we've only scratched the surface. I feel like we could do about a 10-hour stream here, and we'd still be having fun conversation. So just want to say thanks to everyone that's joined us live, all those that are watching on demand. We really do appreciate it. If you're watching this 6 months' time and a lot of these predictions have fallen by the wayside, then hey, look, we were talking about it in December, all right? So
comment, because it still gives us the view thing. So just
exactly. Yeah, let us know what you think is going to happen if you are watching in our timeline, and if you are watching in the future, as Rob says, let us know what we got right and what we got wrong. We'll try and do the same thing next year. Maybe revisit some of these original predictions as well. As we mentioned earlier on, we're going to be hitting you with content throughout the year, not only kind of videos like we mentioned earlier on, such as the arguments for and against war games, and also whether or not Hell in a Cell has peaked too early, as we mentioned throughout the earlier this year as well. Features on the likes of people like Matt Cardona and myself and Rob. Of course, we're going to be getting into WrestleMania season soon. We did a review of our best and worst WrestleMania logos on this channel as well. We've also had the opportunity to interview the likes of Bailey for the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. Also had great conversations with the likes of Butch, as he doesn't want to be called anymore, of course, members of Imperium, and Rhea Ripley. So if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and go back and check those ones out. Before we do get out of here, I'm going to hit you with some quick fire predictions myself. I also believe we're going to get a European PLE. I think Dominic Mysterio is going to win a mid-card title. And I think sadly, and I have to admit very sadly, the Yeet Man himself is potentially going to get lost in the shuffle, because we do have so much going on where in any other timeline, Jey Uso would become a world champion, but there is just so much going on at the top end of the roster. And hey, I guess in some ways for viewers at least, that's a good problem to have. But there is a chance that next year there are people maybe starting to get a little bit tired of not being able to break into that top tier. So it'll be an interesting year for many, many reasons. And we've touched quite a bit on it already, but we've got Raw on Netflix coming up. We've got Saturday night's main event coming up. And of course, we've got the Royal Rumble coming up soon as well. A big month of content. Of course, January will be, but we hope you stick with us throughout the year as well. Just want to say thank you very much to Rob for joining us on the channel once again. So good to see him back in action on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. As always, great to see Lucas with us tonight as well. And once again, thank you to everyone in the comments as well. I've been Scott. This has been the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel, and we'll see you on the next one.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.